many commitments.
Okay.
So
Okay.
let me begin for you so that we don't lose time.
Sir, we just
thank you for,
sir, we just please give us 1 minute for your introduction. Then we will start, sir. Thank you.
yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sena.
Thank you. Hello. Richardson is my name.
Yes. So, dear Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rudranarayan Das, Executive Director, Center for Adivasi Research and Development. Welcomes you all to this global digital platform of intellectual gathering of World Human Sciences and Management Conference 2021, organized by Center for Adivasi Research and Development, Odisha, in association with Indian Institute of Management, Sambalpur, Central University of Odisha, Koraput, and Ravenshaw University, Cuttack. The broader theme of this conference is agnotological context, disciplinary practices of social sciences, and policy frames. On behalf of CARD, I extend my profound gratitude to Professor Mahadeo Jaiswal, Director, Indian Institute of Management, Professor Sarath Kumar Palita, Vice Chancellor, Central University of Odisha, and Professor Dr. Sanjay Kumar Naik, Vice Chancellor, Ravenshaw University. The convener of this largest virtual conference, eminent Indian historian, Professor Chandi Prasad Nanda, and eminent policy activist, writer, and philanthropist, Mr. Charudat Pranigrahi. Friends, in this evening, we have a very special guest, special speaker. He is none other than Professor Kurt Andres Richardson. Andres Richardson is an evangelical theologian whose academic focus is in constructive theology, religious philosophy, and comparative monotheism, particularly among the Abrahamic faith. He received his doctorate in theology at the University of Basel, Switzerland, has taught extensively in several evangelical seminaries, and is a member of the Faculty of Theology of McMaster University and the Trinity College, University of Toronto. He is a co-founder of 3 research groups: Society for Spiritual Reasoning and Comparative Theology in the American Academy of Religion, and Method in Systematic Theology in the Evangelical Theological Society. Professor Richardson is an invited scholar at universities and policy institutes around the world, dealing with the connection between religious faith and promotion of civil society. His numerous publications center upon the contemporary interpretation and reception of scripture in religious and cultural life, philosophical anthropology, and religious ethics. His current research is in the areas of comparative Messianism and Christian theology. In today's symposium and today's lecture, Professor Richardson will deliver his talk on peace building is the measure of success for any religion. Now, before invitation to Professor Richardson, I would like to invite Professor Loknath Misra, an international peace education expert and head of the Department of Education, Mizoram University, for a thematic introduction proceeding to Professor Richardson. Over to Loknath Misra, Professor Loknath Misra.
Thank you. I welcome to the members of the Rudranarayan Das CARD Odisha and the President CARD Odisha and Kurt Andrews Richardson, Professor Kurt Andrews Richardson, and faculty members of different universities, research scholars, and participants, ladies and gentlemen. You know, this thematic issue we will discuss today about the peace building and the role of different religion on peace building. Then we have different religions in all over the earth, and recently you have seen the Kandahar case or the Taliban cases. This is a most example what I can cite here. but the role of religion is very important to build the peace. That I am giving you some examples. The contributions that religion can make to peacemaking as the flip side of the religious conflict is only beginning to be explored and explicated. All the religions contain strong warrants of peacemaking. There are past cases of meditations and peacemaking by religious leaders and institutions. For example, I am giving one example. The World Council of Churches and all Africa conferences of churches mediated the short-lived 1972 peace agreement in Sudan. In South Africa, various churches were at the vanguard of the struggle against apartheid and the peaceful transitions. There are a number of other important contributions I am not citing here. When communal identities, particularly religious identities, as the key causal factors in violent conflict, traditional diplomacy may be the little value in seeking a peace or conflict management. What you call another thing, the Douglas Johnston, the president of the International Center for Religion and Diplomacy, has identified some conditions in several conflict situations that lend themselves to faith-based interventions. So first, the religion is a significant factor in the identity of one or both parts of the conflict. Religious leaders on both sides of the dispute can be mobilized to facilitate peace. Protracted struggles between two major religions or traditions transacted national borders has been seen in the case of overtime with Islam, Christianity, Hindu, and other religions. Forces of repolitics have led to an extended paralysis of actions. So some of these things we will discuss today. The Professor Richardson will guide us how the religions has play a significant role in peace building, and the moral warrants of opposing the injustice, the part of the governments. I have gone through the biodata what the Rudranarayan said, the biodata of the Professor Richardson. He is a number of literatures on the peace building and also different kind of peacemaking, peacekeeping, and peace building. He has done a number of research on this. So I welcome Professor Richardson to say some things.
Thank you.
And I hand over the mic to the card Odisha to stay over me.
Thank you. Thank you. Please,
so,
Professor Richardson, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra.
Invite Professor Richardson to initiate his talk.
You are ready for me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mishra, and all of the colleagues there. It is a great honor and privilege to join you in your meeting on this very important topic. And yes, I've been working many years on the relationship between religious ideas or theology, ethics, and cultures, languages, and science. And I have many thoughts today, but I want to help us focus on, of course, what we have in common, because in all countries, in all languages, in all contexts, especially conflicted contexts, peace means the same thing. It is not just the cessation of hostilities. It is reconciliation, which means that the things we share, we must share. And many times our sharing is broken by conflict, by interests that become too aggressive. And all of a sudden we discount the other. I'm also, as was said in the introduction, a Protestant, an evangelical. Really, we now have in world Christianity three forms. The Orthodox, which is the original Eastern or Middle Eastern Semitic form, based in Judaism and still based in Judaism, or really Israelite religion of the books of Moses all the way through their prophets. And then the New Testament, which is based in the Greek language that the Jews had adopted as members of the Greco-Roman Empire. They translated their Old Testament, their previous testament, and this caused the Jewish proclaimers of Christ to Apostle Paul and probably Jesus himself, given that the universal language at the time was Greek. As a result, the expansion of the Christian message, the gospel, also became Greco-Roman. And so we have the Roman Catholic branch, of course. And then finally, out of the Roman Catholic branch comes the Protestant or evangelical branch. And part of the way that it reasoned into it in the 16th century of our common era was to think in terms of the original mission of Jesus and his apostles. And as a result, there was a deep appreciation for the multilingual potential of faith in the one ultimate deity, the one behind all faces, behind all races, all creation itself, the infinite one. And yet the source of love, the source of light, the source of life. And so there are tremendous resources there. For many, many centuries, however, first of all, the conflicts between Christians and Jews, then the conflicts between Christians. As we all know, once a religion becomes very large, there are many, many gifted people who have insights that once a community has been formed, it has rules and regulations, but it can never exhaustively express the infinite. And so new insights, a new generation of insights is produced by a fruitful community, and they are often forced to separate from each other. This is probably a good thing. We should not be worried about singleness of truth, because the truth has a capacity to be disseminated everywhere, but also to be translated in a sense. But we are mentioning here my work, our work, global work, called the family of the Abrahamic faiths. And this, of course, is Islam, Muslim faith. In the Holy Quran of the 7th century, we have Prophet Muhammad, who's clearly an extension of the biblical prophets, both Old Testament and New Testament. Everything about the Quran, much earlier than the traditions of the narrations of the life of Muhammad, is pure prophecy and very much in line with all of the perspectives, core doctrines of the prophets of Israel and the prophets of Jesus. And so they are also an extension of this root in the faith of Prophet Abraham, the original prophet of this entire. It is a tradition, the spawning of this family of faith, and Muhammad is seeing a fractured Christianity. And so he, like the others, have all longed for a reconciled environment. that encompasses all human beings, since all human beings share a common nature in the image of God, as the image of God, in all their diversity. And so Islam also becomes a universal vision or universal envisioning religion. And we know that as the Jewish, Christian, and Muslim witnesses migrate around the world, they come into contact with Indian philosophers and Chinese philosophers. One of the primary characteristics of the Abrahamic vision of the creation and its destiny is what can be called the messianic principle. This we also find in their own unique versions in Indian religion and in Chinese religion and in all the others. But we mention Indian religion and Chinese religion, especially because their populations are so vast, so immense, especially if we realize that Buddhism is a branch of Indian religion. So we have tremendous diversity and yet commonality, because there is a realization that the creation, the natural order, the universe is not a place that sustains a single physical expression of human life. We all have a short life, relatively speaking. No matter how much we extend our age, our health, we have these limits. And yet within the human being, this image bearing of the deity or of the creator, all three of them, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, have this hope of a reconstructed universe, which is not as subject to decay, which is a kind of perfected ambition that the prophets have a sense this is the creator's ambition. And as the centuries passed, we know that, for instance, in Indian religion and Chinese religion, this universal, we can call it monotheistic principle, is there in the multiple expressions of all of us, of all of ours. But I emphasize the creation over the creator, because behind every, as we know, as behind every created element, all of the laws of nature, if we should even call them laws, but all of the regularities and even irregularities, the immensity of the universe, it's still not infinite, since even when we attempt to imagine the infinite, we are confronted with an infinity of infinities, and it is beyond the capacity of any human being ever to comprehend. So what is it that we do comprehend? Well, we comprehend the self, comprehend the thinking self. We comprehend our ability to communicate what we discover. We may be wrong about a discovery, we may be right. We often learn through falsification. Not everything is falsified, but what we realize experimentally, interpersonally, also internationally, what we recognize in each other is a capacity to learn from our mistakes. And this generates a profound fallibilism. The humility of the prophets translates into the humility of the experimental scientist, into the humility of the therapist, in the humility of the lawyer. If you're a true professional, not serving yourself, but serving others, well, then you realize that as good as perhaps the legal system might be, its flaws are very apparent. and of course, the political system is all political systems are reveal the most flawed characteristics of human nature, because we are also trying to persuade, and the language of persuasion, the rhetoric of persuasion is often exaggerated, or sometimes completely misrepresenting a case in the attempt to win adherence. And we know that this can be one of the chief reasons for the offenses that the religious communities can cause. And one of the remedies to their offenses is reform and new movements. The constant test before us is the question of communication and the transmission of learning. If you look at my organization called Abraham's Bridge, Institute for Abrahamic Relations, our motto is friendship and learning. I do a lot of work in Iran, as well as Israel, Bosnia, European countries, China. I have many Indian friends around the world, especially in my home country of the United States and my second country of Canada. But I have not had the privilege yet of spending much time at the universities in India. I mention universities in the context of friendship and learning because the universities are the closest approximation to the neutral ground that we need for learning. We know like breathing, there is no possibility that we can arrive at the end of learning. We're designed in the image of God, but designed, created, imperfect, co-creators with a trajectory. And we don't really know completely what that trajectory, we don't maybe have any idea completely what that trajectory is in terms of our own productivity. I mentioned the messianic, because we cannot break the bounds of our limitations facing the wearing out of the body. Whatever we imagine beyond the body that dies, it is still the unique, precious value of each body that we are concerned with. Still, we can see the evolution of culture. And as we link up with some of these fundamental principles, the fallibility of human knowing, and yet the truthfulness of human knowing, and then the higher order values of identifying with that, in a sense, abstract reality of the deity behind the creation, that everywhere in our reasoning, if we're not too damaged, if we can sense the best parts of the human soul, we can project of what the deity is about, in terms, as I mentioned, of life, of love, of light, the light by which we see and the light by which we reason and learn. And so out of many centuries of contact with the Indian religions, the Chinese religions, and the Abrahamic religions, we have gained tremendous sense of a universe in which we recognize our common and common destiny. We carry with us not only the traditions of learning, but also the memory of destruction. mutual and self-destruction. We sometimes have found these facts about ourselves to be so enduring, so repetitious, that we even imagine that the religion has this suffering as its purpose, or this cruelty. And we have to be very, very careful about that. Just because our foreparents endured terrible things at the hands of fellow human beings over and over and over again, doesn't mean that the deity approves of these things. We certainly don't, if we have a heart for them. But it's very difficult to recognize the commonality in the midst of politics, in the midst of property claims, in the midst of various kinds of genetic superiority claims, which we should not have. Nevertheless, it is our destiny as we build peace to do so in terms of the institutions that we know, the institutions of law, the institutions of science, of art, of economics, even of politics, so that the human being can become an integrated self, something that we are privileged to know in a way that previous generation, only very few people in previous generations had a capacity to know. I wanted to also add regarding the Messianic. The Messianic represents a coalescing of faith, all hope, all love in a single imagined figuration that mediates not only the redemption of all humanity, but the creation itself. Since the creation also self-destructs from time to time. And there are these hopes. They are generated by the deepest reflections and also successes of human work and human learning. Yes, the conflicts between Christians and Jews and Muslims in many ways have been some of the worst. There has been a great deal that has been learned, but as we know, the historical memory, or I should say historical imagination, that glorifies certain conflicts of the past because we perceive our side to have won. I certainly am very humbled by the fact, and not humbled in a good sense, but humbled in terms of the confession of sin, in terms of my own cultures, Christian cultures, many of them, and the oppressions. We know from the histories of all empires that just to be involved in empire building is to be involved in terribly destructive acts, and even the creation of institutions that permanently or for long periods of time oppress people. And in many ways, among our violent histories, the Christian histories have included not only massive advancements in science and technology, but massive advancements in applying science and technology to military power and destruction. And we constantly are at risk of these things. And when we consider the ethics of managing science and technology, managing human beings, while at the same time managing without destroying their freedom, without fixing them within systems of control that dehumanize them, something which we should all be extremely cautious about right now because of the utilization of artificial intelligence for these purposes. We are all feeling very, very threatened, as bad as World War II was. And I think it's extremely important to remember that although Asia was engulfed in the kind of fascism that Germany was engulfed in, we are talking about, between those two countries, one of them being the most advanced Christian culture, plunging itself and the rest of Europe into destruction. I freely admit that. And American slavery, American conquering of native tribes and ruining their lives. It's been typical of empires, and we have been no exception. At the same time, we are listening, many of us, to the opportunities for partnership, which are the one solution, short of the messianic future, the one solution to reconciled relations that can produce wholesome and repairing and restoring and advancing progress in human relations. Many times, religion at a high level of principle, the kind of religious ideas that professionals need to think about complex decision making, whether it's in medicine or technology or other kinds of areas of human life that require selfless, others serving values. No valuable technology was ever produced apart from such values. And so it requires partnership. And the question of the contemporary threats require everything we have possibly learned about human relations and human sciences to create quality partnerships that will lessen the threat. There is, interestingly, in the question of technology, what is sometimes called the technological imperative. And the technological imperative is a little bit frightening, namely that if you can develop the technology, you must develop the technology because you're not the only one with the capacity to do so. And if you don't develop the technology, then you will not be able to master it in the face of its bad uses. And so this has always been the case. Technology simplifies the complex, and this is the great value. Technology is always an instrument, a tool, an extension of the fingers of the other appendages by which the human body moves and negotiates existence with its environment and with other human beings. Partnership is essential in all of this. And partnership that identifies the core human values by which we are shaped, and we are constantly being shaped and contributing to that shaping. I finally would like to conclude with this aspect of partnership and peace building. In the, I've used the word reconciliation. And at the heart of reconciliation, which means to make peace, there must be forgiveness. And this is very, very troublesome in the world of the tribal ethic. Many of our religions were adapted to a tribal way of thinking. A tribal way of thinking is hierarchical, and the survival and the values of the tribe are very much based on the kinship, not partnership. And while we love families and the kinship of families, we want them to be the best they can be. They share in the larger community of human beings in any place. The tribal ethic is often dominant. The tribal ethic based on shame and honor. Once the kinship bond has been established, once the young men and young have been initiated into the bonds of kinship, the movement, the will, often top down from the privileged, the prominent, to everyone else. And this sense of punishment and reward, and often at the man or woman on top, who plays a kind of parental figure. This is in a group of human beings, necessity of sharing. The necessity of sharing in a way that nothing in the tribal ethic is really prepared for. Because we share with the other, the foreign family, the foreign individual. Yet sharing and partnership in business, in technology, in professions, in serving people through disasters and helping them recover, all of these require much higher order and universal values. Certainly the Abrahamic faiths contribute to this a great deal. Now all of the major faiths contribute to universal values. The a pluribus unum of the Latin phrase, though many, one, or through many, out of many, one humanity. There is no place where children could not result from human beings interacting. There's no place where the essentials of food and shelter and education and life are different. There is no place, and governmental encounter, diplomatic arrangements are in a kind of fundamentally different way. And so the common humanity made in the image of God, reflecting the image of God. And at the heart of all of this is not the removal of shame, certainly on the part of the hierarch and the inferior, lesser members of the tribe, but in terms of real shared understanding. Crimes have been committed. And in truth and reconciliation, which has been developing in the last 20 years, since the end of apartheid in South Africa. Yes, the processes are very imperfect, but by truth and reconciliation, we look into each other's eyes and we look at our own eyes, and having looked into our own eyes in the mirror, and we're prepared to face the truths of our crimes. And we confess them. And we forgive each other. And then we covenant together and we form a new partnership. And we know when that partnership, when that partnership is offended. And we know when it's threatened with dissolution. A new partnership will need to replace it. But these are the kinds of things, religiously and ethically, we are on the cutting edge of. We know that in our globalized, highly complex world, there is just no elbow room to treat any part of the world, to treat any part of the populations of the world with indifference, with superiority. As it takes a very, very strong spiritual mindset and a lot of experience in partnership building and in reconciliation for all of us, to each other, to speak the truth in love, as Apostle Paul is famous for stating, and to receive one another as we have been received by the God of creation, whose infinite forgiveness disrupts the cycle of death. And that disruption is part of the vision, that the universal vision that is at the heart of the contribution in the Abrahamic traditions. And as I close with that, again, I want to emphasize, I am but one scholar in the midst of a very, very, very large cluster of religious communities around the world. And I know that we can be have been, and will be perhaps extremely guilty for offending our own principles. But I think we all know how that happens. And we must encourage each other and continue to foster partnerships of learning by which we can successfully perform acts of reconciliation with each other, covenant together, and build peace. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to a little bit of interaction as we conclude this session.
Dr. Jena, please.
Thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful delivery. And well, in advance, this is an invitation from my side. After new normal, you must visit to India and our university called Ravenshaw University and Indian Institute of Management, Sambalpur, Central University of Odisha. And wherever you want to do in India, you must visit. Without wasting much time, I would like to invite Professor B.C. Das to go for quick questions. Then we'll wind the session by vote of thanks by Dr. Nina Das.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Vikram Jena. First of all, I appreciate the talk by Professor Richardson and the introductory thematics by Professor Loknath Mishra. I also welcome other professors like Professor Sivabrat Das from GM University and my other colleagues. So this is a very interesting topic today regarding the role of religions in saving humanity and the very backbone of human civilization, the very purpose of a peaceful coexistence relation between humanity and non-human entities. So so far we have learned from different religions. These religions are the backbone of society. Satya, Dharma, Santi, Ahimsa. truth, religion, peace, and non-violence have been the guiding principles of a human life. Not only human, but non-human life also. In this age of
Yes.
Anthropocene, the human being has been witnessed in not doing humanity. Rather, it is empirical of going against non-human entities. In fact, we have brought in a dangerous happenings at the detriment of humanity and religious ethics. That is, the world is one family. What we study in Indian philosophy, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one family. We should disseminate this idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam all over the world. According to this idea of Vedas, every human being, and there is a strong relationship, peaceful relationship between humanity and non-humanity. We should take care of human beings as well as non-human entities. So, in the but very um, sad to say, in the name of religion, some fanatic groups of people are doing against the humanity. It's high time for religious leaders to come forward and guide the people to work for the unity, humanity, and fraternity all over the world. So it is a great time for us, for knowledge leaders, both knowledge leaders and religious leaders. They should come forward and discuss together and work for the humanity. Thank you very much, sir, for your diligent talk. And I hope I invite others if any questions from their end. Thank you very much.
Hello, Professor
Thank
Richardson.
you very much.
Can I read the questions for you?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Thank you. Sir, the first question is asked by Imran Kadri, Sheikh Imran Kadri. He's asking, there is always a conflict between Christians and Muslims. That Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was pursuing to Christianity, which you just mentioned, and Muslims believe that Jesus was pursuing to Islam, which they mention as there is no unambiguous statements in which Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, and himself says that he is God and worship him. And what could be the point of yours towards this point made by Muslims in the light of secret scriptures?
Yes, thank you for that question. And we need to, one thing I mentioned in my talk was the time of Muhammad and the Christian world that in the Middle East, not in the Western Christian world, but in the Middle Eastern Christian world, where Muhammad was growing up, southeastern Syria down into Arabia, the Christian churches were divided. They had condemned each other for various political reasons, but used their doctrines. We need to be very careful about the deity statements in the Gospel of John. They're in the New Testament. They are the most prominent, and we know that Muslims can read the first verses where in the beginning was the Word of God, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In a very Asian way of reasoning, the last comment, the whole comment is indirect, because human language is so limited. It does not fail, but it is limited. So that when the word Son of God comes up later in chapter 1, you can see that the Word of God, the eternal Word of God, who is God, and the Son, who is the name of the eternal Word, are synonyms for each other. And so there is this, and this is because the anticipation of the Jews who are monotheist like the Muslims, or at least at the time of the first millennium, the Christianity is still monotheist, but there is this eternal plurality of the one God in terms of divine attributes that Jewish and Muslim theologies would, at least mystical theologies, would recognize. What is important here, however, is that the religions, the institutions, come into conflict, just like the nations or the big tribes, the empires that are founded. Once a religion starts developing law for a particular sovereign, it becomes exclusive. This is the case with Indian religion when it has empire, Chinese religion when it has empire. So the law, no matter how big the empire, the laws have a tribal basis to them. And so often the prophets are neglected. The prophets are their universal vision beyond the tribe cannot be fully absorbed, because even the very, very large institutions and nations are still tribal in many ways. They are the things which carry over century after century. I think they are slowly being eliminated. There is a big question how the larger sovereignties, such as India and China, can accommodate for all the different cultures within them. It is not enough that the majority version of Indian religion or Christian religion or Western religion, what have you, should define what the human being is. There is enough truth that we can glean together the essential characteristics, what a good legal system is, a good economic system is. But this is taking very, very long time. Having said that, though, we are talking about only about 3,000 years at the most of actual human history. And I think the importance of history is this sense of the transmission of learning, the transmission of shared action, the development of partnerships, new kinds of partnership. You can still see the religion in the new partnerships, but you know that it's been transformed. So we don't know what the future of tribal religion is. Very, very large groups. But we know, for instance, Christianity is not one thing. Judaism is not one thing. Islam is not one thing. I work among Shias. They are excluded from much that is Sunni majority. So, and then there are many smaller branches. This is what happens in human development. We are constantly particularizing, which is a good thing, because the more thoughtful people we have interacting with each other, contributing, the more data we have to sift through and to glean the continuing facts and truths, which are very precious, that endure beyond the falsification of each generation of science and humanities. So the Abrahamic relationship is forming. It has become very, very visible in the last 20 years. We are talking about recent developments. We are talking about young scholars who see their way into an integrity that is Islamic, but a partnership that is Abrahamic. And I think this is very, very important. We should not be trying to Christianize or Hinduize or all of that. Those are constructs that belong to inferior institutional reasoning. But we will remain we will retain distinct identities based upon the sources of our childhood environment, our learning environments, our geographical environments. We know that if we try to understand the human being anthropologically, it is often the ethnographic that helps us capture the unique identities of that we embody around the world in many locations. And yet, as a unique embodiment of the human in North India, or we have these sources ourselves rather efficiently, and all of it away. The problems of Christianity have been exaggerated. And I don't have to read the gospel of earlier institutions did. The same goes for Jewish readers. The same goes for Indian and Chinese readers. And we're reading each other's sources. And so this does not produce a single religion. This does not produce a rejection of particularity. Each of us have our own particularity in our own parts of the world, geographically, ethnographically, and it helps us. That is not under threat, although in some ways it is under threat. If I could add one more factor, and that is my lecture put a premium on learning. Well, national education institutions, which are very valuable, definitely, while maybe not requiring adherence to the majority religion in India, in America, wherever, South America, South Africa, it does involve learning according to the majority language. That's another very, very big question, because the particular languages, many of them very ancient, are disappearing. They don't have a textual form, or if they do, for various reasons, only specialists can learn earlier textual forms that the majority language public education cannot really provide instruction in. And so we are all very familiar in each in our own unique ways. This is a natural process. Many different kinds of scholars are trying to work on it. There are many languages in India which are disappearing, as in other parts of the world. We should lament that as curators of the human. We care about them very much. But I want to emphasize how recent the Abrahamic developments are. And like earlier developments in the 19th century, between the first reforming and even revolutionary Indian thinkers, people like Sri Aurobindo Ghosh before he became a guru. In many ways, he was an embodiment of his own taking control of the learning resources that were available to him. He took control of colonial knowledge, and he transformed it into something useful for Indians. And we can see this. So the prophetic scriptural texts are at our disposal. We want to interpret them well. And when a Jewish or Christian or Muslim reader reads the testaments of the other, we have a Jewish way of reading the Christian and Muslim texts, a Muslim way of reading the Jewish and Christian texts. And then when we branch out, we get to know each other around the world. We're going to read the Vedas, we're going to read the Confucian texts and the Taoist texts, and then many others, but some of them will not make it into the conversation because they are so highly focused on a particular tribe or a particular time. And they can be resurrected through historical imagination, but I would rather not live my faith according to my historical imagination, but rather the imagination that helps me prepare for the next moment, the next project. And I've got to go now, but I certainly invite any of you, please be in contact with me, and we can develop useful projects for universities in India. Thank you very much. And I wish all of you a very good time in your conference.
Sir, we have so many questions.
Okay, why don't you pick the most important one?
Yes, sir. So the question is important, asked by Professor Shubham Das. He's asking, in 21st century, religions don't bring rain, they don't cure illness, they don't build bombs, but they do get to determine who are us and who are them, who we should cure and how we should bomb. How do you address the problem of harmony so far as the above issues are concerned?
Yes, this has to do with the challenge of reconciliation. There are many political movements which are based upon unforgivable grievances. There is constantly the question of religion and power. What kind of power is religion? The colleague at the beginning in the introduction of my presentation quoted me on something that I think is very, very important. The measure of religious success by any religion is its capacity to build peace. If it is not building peace, it is failing in terms of human life. It may be succeeding in terms of a tribe. It may be succeeding in terms of fueling and motivating the aggression needed to fight the conflict, whatever that conflict is, both external and internal. Many, many times religion is being used as an instrument of aggression to focus it and also to define it. When you have a definition or a reason for aggression, and it doesn't matter what religion, there are models of the warrior in all the religions, and many times the deity is a warrior. And this metaphor has been put aside in many, many centuries by the best scholars of religion and the best representatives of the human spirit in favor of the power of love. And it is very easy to doubt the power of love, even though it is the greater power, even though It truly is. Two people who truly reconcile, which is the word reconciliation, is the synonym for peace building. Two people who reconcile, who look at the truth of the crimes and they forgive each other. This is the power of religion when it is used according to the prophets, according to the trajectory, the future vision. So I share with, and I'm sure there are many, many thoughts here, since here is this Christian whose history includes a great deal of violence. So much violence and so much modern history that we can forget how much violence has been encouraged by all the major religions. When a religion gets power, it uses it coercively. And when it gets power, no matter how much nonviolence is preached by the prophets, it's ignored. Because to service the conflict, people must be motivated. They need reasons to enter the field of war. And when they have those reasons based on their religion, you have lost the principle of love. You have to fight until one side gives up. We know how destructive and is. That is not what we believe is the purpose of religion. The measure of religion is peace building, or it is failing. So that means that many religions are failing, or many religions in many places are failing. Not that they have to. And we should not blame anyone who says, I have left religion because it has caused me so much harm. Many protest, many very faithful people protest the voice of the atheist. But the atheist has usually someone who is going to the trouble to warn their fellow human beings on the danger of religion. What is he or she, what is the atheist warning them about? The practices of bad religion, religions that offer a myth that justifies violence and aggression. These myths must be left behind, put into a museum, so that they cannot be a source of imagination anymore. They can be a source of historical awareness. They can be a source of reconciliation, of forgiveness, of confession, of crime in the name of God. It's a little bit of a tricky phrase I use. Religion doesn't need violence to succeed, but it helps. I mean, when you define the deity as willing violence for a certain cause, a certain purpose, and we know that violence is not the divine purpose. So it is in our history, and it is in our recent history. It is the cause of offense. It is the cause of atheism. And yet, to create partnerships of love that build peace, the atheist knows that this is success. Even if for the rest of her life or his life, they're too wounded or damaged to recover an explicit faith. If they can practice love, if we can practice love together in peace building, then all the qualities, all the spiritual qualities that religion has in fostering the truth of love come out even in the atheist. And we will leave that wounded person to the healing we all need. Thanks so much for the opportunity. And I wish everyone in this conference all the very best. I would love it if we could share this recording, and I look forward to the next opportunity to be with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Richardson. So there are more questions, and I will appeal to the audiences to mail their questions direct to
Yes,
Professor Richardson.
please.
So please share your mail
Thank you.
ID in the chat box. Now, I'd like to
Goodbye for right now. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Dr. Nina Das for go for a vote of thanks.
Okay. Am I audible and visible to all of you, sir? Namaskar.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
From India. That is with this shlok from Bhagavat, I would like to start my vote of thanks. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiret. Sir, with the shlok of Bhagavat, I would like to start my vote of thanks to Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. And our and most esteemed chief speaker of today's session, Professor Kurt Anders Richardson, sir, Professor of Abrahamic Studies, Graduate Institute of Applied Linguistics, Dallas, Texas. On behalf of CARD, I extend my profound gratitude to Professor Richardson, sir, for his deliberation on peace building is the measure of success for any religion. I extend my deep sense of gratitude, and I extend my thanks to you, sir, for building peace. I think you appear as a you appear as abode of peace all over the world, and we are very pleased to meet you, sir. And as you said, that the peace of God, who surpasses all understanding, will guard our hearts, our minds, and let the peace of God rule in our hearts, to which indeed you are called one body, and we are thankful as it is there in Bible verse 3:15. And now may the Lord of peace himself give us peace at all times in every way, and the Lord be with us all. And sir, as you have highlighted, you have rightly said that we have very short lives, and the universe is the expression of versatility. So as the religion, and this is the Creator's multiple expressions, emphasizing creations over the Creator, infinities of infinities beyond the capacity of human beings. Human beings all over the world, they should try to explore that Creator, that infinity. And so you have also highlighted the evolution of culture and truthfulness, higher order values, the deities behind creations, light of love, Indian religions, Chinese religions, Abrahamic religions, and about Christianity also. You have presented the religion from world's point of view, and you have also highlighted that we all are co-creators. I would also like to add the version of Quran 59:23, which discloses that peace is one of the names of God himself, and the law that Lord is our final destination of peace, happiness, and prosperity. Sir has said we should forgive each other, we should live in peace, and we should create partnership of love, peace all over the world. We should practice love together. We should build peace. Violence is not the divine purpose. The measure of all religion is peace building. And finally, as it is highlighted in Bible, that rejoice, aim for restoration, comfort one another, live in peace, and the God of love and peace will be with all of us. And whoever is there, deceit in their heart of those who devise evil. For those who plan peace, they have joy in their heart. And peace, I live with you, and my peace I give it to you, as said by Christ in 14:27. And at the end, I would like to also give vote of thanks to our esteemed director, sir, our executive director, sir, and all the professors present here, Loknath Mishra sir, Professor Sivajan Das sir, Professor from Gangadhar University, Professor from Ravinsa University, Professor all over India, and the guest faculties and research scholars, and everybody, Dr. V.C. Das from Ravinsa University, who coordinated the program, and all the coordination team from CARD, and all the students who participated. And sir, you have changed our world view about religion, and you have changed that peace is the abode, peace is the restoration, peace is the main thing in all religions of the world. And last but not the least, I would like to thank patrons of the program, that our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Ravinsa University, and Honorable Vice Chancellor, Central University, Koraput, and Director, IIM Sambalpur. And last, I would like to say that Sarva Mangale Mangalye Shive Sarvarthe Sadhike Sharanya Trayambake Gauri Narayani Namastute. And namaste from India, and thank you all of you. Thank you.